your name and where you're from.
Yes, my name's Nicole, and I'm from Regina, Saskatchewan.
Cool. I was wondering how to pronounce that.
Yeah.
And how are you feeling today?
Not bad.
Yeah.
It's been, pretty good overall.
Yeah.
Work sucks. Everything else in life, awesome.
Can you tell me where you are in your mental health journey?
I would say I'm a lot further along than I have been in the past.
Yeah.
Like a couple months ago, I actually started seeing a counselor, and I wanted to for a long time. I've just never had the money to. But I made sure I had money to this time.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think it's an important thing, and I've been doing okay as is, but I was still having moments of kind of spiraling. So I just didn't want to get to those points again. I'm like, I need someone to help me maintain my health. So
yeah.
I've been further along these last 2 months than ever before, I would say.
Yeah? That's awesome. What about in my experience with having therapists and stuff, sometimes you may get the wrong therapist for you. How has that experience been for you?
Well, I literally got such a gem of a woman the very first time I got it. I've also heard that too, and I was kind of scared.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get someone I really liked, but I do really, really like this girl I have, and one of the things I was scared of is because as it is, I'm a really introspective person, and I think I overthink way too much, and so I was kind of scared that I would have a therapist who was kind of babying me, and just I don't know, tell me things that I already knew.
Yeah.
But she cuts no crap. She calls me out of my shit so quickly, and I'm like, oh.
When was the last time that you cried?
Last time I cried? Ooh. Maybe a couple weeks ago, actually, but it was for a good reason. I got a new job, and it's been a long time coming, because like I said, work sucked. Specifically, for my mental health. We just have a really bad management team there. So getting this new job felt so good.
Yeah.
I just as soon as I got it, I went into my car and just cried myself. Yeah.
When did you start to notice your mental health kind of take a turn?
For the better or worst?
For the worse.
I mean I've had depression my whole life, so I didn't know what it was when I was younger. I was just sad constantly, scared, shy. And my family kind of just saw it as qualities of me, I guess. But it was probably more when I was 12, 13-ish, because I started self-harming, and that was the way I kind of got out those feelings. So I think from there it was a pretty steady decline in high school. I've had moments where it's gotten close to that again, I think, but it's never been quite that bad as it was in high school.
Yeah. What about your race and gender? What do you think that they say about you?
Well, I've definitely had a lot. I mean, even with the job I'm quitting, for example, there's a lot of sexism there. It is what it is, I guess. And I've fought it a lot, and I've made some progress with the company, but there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
That's kind of affected me in so many ways. But I'm white, so I still have white privilege.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even growing up, I grew up in a small town, and we had very few people who weren't white, and a lot of them were my friends, because I was just friends with whoever was artsy, and a lot of people in my school happened to be artsy, so we were all friends, but definitely I saw whatever they went through, but I never experienced it firsthand. Right?
Yeah. What are some misconceptions that people may have about you based on your race?
I do think some people assume that I have money, and that's a fun thing. I have my most viewed video on YouTube is actually a room tour, and I have an arcade machine in that room too. And it was like $400 or something. And I barely paid for any of that because I had gift cards saved up. I was like, it was partially a birthday present, all this stuff. And I hadn't spent money on myself for like 3 years before I bought that. And I got a lot of YouTube comments saying like, wow, what it must be to like be rich. And I'm like, I'm not though.
Yeah.
And so like, that's an interesting thing because I think it's definitely, there are more rich white people because capitalism, that's the system it's based off of. But I personally am not rich. And so I have gotten that, or even the way I dress and stuff. Like, I like to really express myself through fashion, but it's like 100% thrifted. I don't really support unethical clothing places, but it might look fancy. Like, I have some Calvin Klein stuff and like knockoff whatever, and people are like, you're bougie. I'm like, no, this is like $8.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the main misconception.
Yeah. What about misconceptions about your gender?
I personally feel like very over-sexualized. So I've had a lot of comments in real life and online where people's only value of me is like my body and stuff. And I think people don't understand like how smart I actually am and the skills I have, and I have so much other things going for me, but people don't care about that, and it's like not my thing, not about that. But like, that would probably be it, is they don't really consider anything beyond my physical appearance.
I like that you pointed out like your strengths and your skills and like how smart you are. I think that truly shows like what we were talking about before, like from where you were before, like say in high school, to like where you are now. Like I can totally like relate to the fact that like then like I wasn't able, like I had this one assignment where I was like, she was like name like 30 like things about yourself that you like, and I was like, what? And then like now like I'm able to do that. But I've like I think that's cool, and that's really like strong of you to like, you know.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, sometimes the words don't click.
No, and I get what you're saying totally. Because I've had similar things like that too, where it's like I don't really like much about myself.
Yeah.
Like, here's these little things. You kind of get to a point where I think you get like, you develop yourself internally. That doesn't really matter what your external perception is as much, because that's what makes you feel confident, right? Is you're like, I have this, like all this backing me up, and I have that big energy.
What about misconceptions about your mental health?
Well, I mean, I've been hesitant to tell people about things like getting a counselor, for example, because I'll say that, and some people will be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And it's like, it's a good thing, you know. I'm like, this is to maintain a good mental health, not like I'm not, going crazy.
Yeah.
I think overall, like I've had a pretty positive outlook on that kind of stuff, and like people looking at me too, it's genuinely been like to help me, or not necessarily like super worried about me, but they're proud of my development, and that's the way it should be, right?
Yeah.
It's more positivity around it. But I think more of the judgments have come from family members, especially, kind of the get over it mentality, and that it's not actually as big of a deal as they think it is. But I'm like, this is all in my brain. This is depression. Like, this is how it works. I can't just get over it. Yeah. And so I think most of those misconceptions kind of come from either like family members downplaying it, or other people just completely like getting way too worried because they're like, you're going to a therapist? Oh no! Yeah. I'm like, no, that is the best thing I can do right now. Yeah. So it's okay.
Yeah, like two different sides of the spectrum. What about your sexuality? Misconceptions about your sexuality?
That too, I feel like it's been positive overall with people my age. I had a lot of struggles with that with my mom growing up, and we're at a better place now, but she, like, for my whole life would always talk down on it. Because when I was in elementary school, I didn't know any other sexualities but beyond gay, straight, and bisexual. And so I knew I wasn't the first two. I was like, okay, I'm probably bisexual. So I that's me. And I think when I was in grade 7 or 8 or something, that's when more celebrities started coming out as bisexual. And my mom would always say things like, that's not true, it's biologically not true. She's like, it doesn't make sense. And when I became a freshman in high school, that's when I realized what pansexuality was. And as soon as I heard the definition of that, I was like, it clicked. I'm like, that's me, and I've identified as that way for like so many years now. But the first time I told my mom that, she's like, that's not a thing, and completely invalidated everything. She was like, she would just say, like, you don't like girls. Like, but I do. She was like, no, you don't, it's a phase. Or she would say something's wrong with me, or I'm just like looking for attention and all that stuff. And it was really hard for a long time. And it was only until I had this relationship with this girl I really liked that it fell apart because of my mom. I'd already met her family and everything, and she wanted to meet mine, and I was like, I don't know about that. I'm like, my mom's not going to believe you're anything more than a friend. And she basically left me because she felt like I was ashamed of her. And I get that, and like her feelings are completely valid in that. I had such a grudge against my mom for that though, because I was like, if she didn't have the attitude she had, I could have brought her home and felt safe enough, you know. My mom and I have since like had a really good conversation about that kind of stuff though, and she does her best, you know. I can tell she still doesn't understand it. But if I talk about a girl with like hard eyes, she like lets me go off, and she doesn't make bad comments. And so that's gotten better, but like my perception from other people has been more just like, you know, questions, or they've just not known enough about different sexualities that I feel like they can't almost make perceptions because they just have questions, and that's kind of where it's been. But all the negative ones definitely just from my mom, and it's that was kind of my experience, but it is getting better. And I think, I mean, 2020 is a shit show, but I think overall the world is getting a little more progressive, right? So it's not going to be as bad now as it might have been if I was born like 20 years ago.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In addition to that, what has somebody said, well, you kind of already answered this, but like the question is, what has somebody said in ignorance about, like towards your mental health, race, gender, or like any other stuff?
Yeah, it's basically just invalidating it. People thinking their opinion on mental health, sexuality, whatever it is, means more than the actual person experiencing it. And that's just simply not true. That's not how it is. I would say, that's where all the negativity comes from. It's kind of a sense of entitlement usually, and people not wanting to educate themselves.
Next one. Have you ever felt like you were like kind of like stuck and that you weren't going to like recover or like, you know, like make it out of like, I call it kind of like a cycle, I guess?
Yeah, for sure. There's been like multiple moments, but there's one moment worse than the rest, and that is when I did try to commit suicide. It was something that my mom actually walked in on me doing it, and it was a really hard experience for both of us. She never took me to the hospital. She kind of just like took away the things I had that I was going to use and fell asleep. I think I slept for like 20 hours after that, and I didn't feel better when I woke up. Like the thoughts didn't go away. Nothing really got better immediately. So it was definitely like just, I remember like laying in bed being like, this, I'm not going anywhere. Like there's nothing that's going to get better, and just all the absolute worst thoughts, right? And that's why like now currently I do my best not to let myself get to that mindset again, because I actually have things going for me now, and I'm like, hey, if you didn't do it then, you can't do it now. Like I was really hopeless and just kind of sulking in my emotions, and I didn't have any coping mechanisms. I didn't have much going for me. I did art, but I didn't do it like seriously. I didn't consider it as a career yet. So yeah, those would probably be kind of the lowest moments.
that like clicks, like resonates, you know? Like I feel kind of like the same way, like, I don't know. I get it.
Yeah, when you have it going for you and you have like more of a vision for the future, it's kind of like you can't.
Yeah.
You've already started. You can't. You got to finish your journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, sometimes I cannot read my own handwriting.
Get that. What would I tell myself now?
That you've overcome.
Like tell my past self?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like if I told my past self it gets better, I wouldn't believe it. So maybe not something quite like that.
Yeah.
I think I would tell my past self, like, the things I'm doing now, it would probably make little me a little more hopeful, and just say things like, you know, because I used to have like a lot of little manuscripts. I never did anything with them. I didn't consider being a writer at that time, but just like, I like writing. So if I told myself, like, you're going to have 2 published books, I would freak out. I'd be like, that is what? And like, even making YouTube videos and stuff, like, when I think I started doing more online content when I was like emo and like 15. It was so cringy and gross. But if I was like, hey, that's gonna stop and you're gonna actually do cool stuff, same thing. I think I would just like tell my younger self about kind of what I'm doing now, because I'm so happy with the stuff I'm doing. I do still obviously need like other jobs to sustain my living. I can't live off my passion's not even close yet, but that's the goal one day. And so like I love what I'm doing now. Yeah, I think that's my answer.
What would you tell yourself now? Like not to your past self, but like to yourself in the present.
I would probably remind myself to still take breaks. I think I overwork myself a lot, and I'm always trying to work on that. But I think with having a job and then doing writing and YouTube, and I still have to have a life, and I have these friends that want to hang out, I think I tend to prioritize everything else above myself. And then I go like 3 weeks without stopping, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm gonna faint. I'm so tired. So I think that's what I would just say, like, hey, chill out sometimes. You need to like catch yourself more often.
Yeah. Okay. What are some things that got you to where you are now that have helped you grow into like who you have become?
I think definitely the people around me. Like, I can't just give myself all the credit. Of course, I've tried to develop myself internally, but like my best friend, for example, she's always there for me, whether it's through bad or good things. Like, I could just be like, hey, there's this event going on, do you want to come? And she's just, as long as she's not working and she's free, she's like, I'm down. And so like we've experienced so much together. We went on road trips and traveled together, and we've cried together, and we've celebrated things together. And so she's such a light in my life that she's definitely helped me. I think on top of that too would be my dad, because I didn't have a good relationship when I was with him when I was younger, but now I do. When I published my second book is sad, and he read it, and he was like, hey, I want to have a talk with you. I was like, oh god. And he basically, I think he understood how much I was going through by reading my book, and he told me that he has depression. And that was like, that was so hard to hear from a parent. But also in a good way. Like, it kind of made me feel like, oh, now I know where it came from. You know, not just like so like it made me not feel like I just had a default. It was like, oh, I actually have it genetically, and I was able to kind of look into that more. And he told me stories about how, like, he said he always thought everyone had suicidal thoughts. It was just a common thing until I actually started talking about it, and someone was like, what are you saying? Are you okay? He was like, oh. And that's kind of when I realized, like, he had depression and looked more into it. And he had friends that had committed suicide, his best friend and then his second best friend both did. So he's also had like a hard life too. And when we were talking, he told me like to this day he still thinks about it. And that's crazy to me because he's like 54.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, huh? And so like part of why he's like such a motivator for me is because like I want to pay for like a trip for him essentially. And it really motivates me to like try to make money off of my passions because I really want to provide him like a really amazing thing in his life. This is going to be like a little bit of a long answer. I'm sorry, but
you're good.
Okay, I need to explain like some context, but basically, so in high school, like I started developing some health problems and stuff, and I was in and out of the hospital. And 2-3 years ago ish, the one nurse told me that I only had 3 months to live, and that was difficult.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about a lot of things I wasn't going to be able to do, a lot of things I hadn't said, and I really lived my life like I only had 3 months to live. Yeah. One of the conversations I had with my dad was, what's something you've always wanted to do but you've never done before? And normally he's the kind of guy that has like wishy-washy answers. He's kind of like, I'm good with anything.
Yeah.
But for that answer, he actually had one he thought about, and he was like, I've always wanted to scuba dive in the Caribbean. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And I was like, why haven't you? And he's like, well, you know, I have the kids, I have the acreage, I'll save it for my next lifetime. That's what he said. And I was like, you can't say that to me, I'm dying. So, like, you know, I lived, yay. And then started like, getting more into my creative crafts. And then so when him and I had that conversation after my second book, I was like, that's what I want to do for my dad, is I want to give him that trip to scuba dive in the Caribbean. But it's like $10,000 for 2 tickets for 1 week. That's so much money.
Is that including like all the stuff, like hotel and all that stuff? Yeah,
basically. Like it's kind of like the all expenses paid trip. And he's not the kind of guy who would go by himself, so that's why I need to get 2 tickets. Yeah. So that's like really motivating for me. It's motivating in a bad way sometimes, because then I'll have moments where I'm like, I'm not even close to having the money I need, and that's stressful. And that's, again, you know, you're talking about the perceptions people have of me. And I'll say people think I have money. That's like especially hard, because I'm like, if I had money, you think I'm going to spend it on this stupid shit? No, I'm giving it to my dad. So, yeah, it can be hard motivating, but it's also motivating in a really good way, because when I do start getting down on myself, and like the last video that I uploaded on YouTube, just so many problems occurred. The projection screen I was using stopped working, my editing system crashed, I had to redo everything. It was so frustrating. But like when things like that happen, then I think back to him and what I'm trying to do for him, and I'm like, just gotta keep going. Like, you can't give up, just gotta keep going. So, yeah. My dad and my best friend.
Yes, love it. Motivation, we're here for it. Okay, what are some things that you could not do before that you can do now?
Like skill-wise, or just anything?
Like anything.
I would say most of it comes down to confidence would be the biggest difference. Before, like, I couldn't accept compliments. I couldn't, like, really see value to myself that much, you know? I couldn't, like, look in the mirror and be like, I look hot. Like, it just, that never happened, you know? And I think now I've gotten a lot better, kind of, again, tying into, because I've developed myself internally, it's made me appreciate myself externally more. But, like, I have learned to just, you know, take compliments, whether or not I believe it. I can take compliments. I can appreciate things about myself. So I think that's something I can do now that, like, I really had a hard time with before.
Yeah. Okay. Are you holding on to anything that you would like to let go of right now?
Ooh. Can you give me a second to think of that one?
Of course, take your time.
I think there's some toxic people I could probably let go of.
Yeah.
I get into this weird space with that though, because I know some toxic people need support.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes into that thing where I think about when I was really sad and hurting, like I needed people, but I was also toxic, right? Because I'm just projecting all this negative energy. So that's where I get stuck sometimes, is like I don't want to reject someone who's going through a lot.
Well, I'd say, like, what happens if you just, like, I mean, like, realistically, like, would you, like, let go of those people? Like, it was, like, you had to make the choice now, or else.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Because for, like, in real life, right, it's usually like at some point is more the answer. But if you're like now or never,
yeah,
I would probably say I'd let them go now.
Yeah. And like thinking in the future, say like, wow, like look at me, I let those people go. How would you feel?
Probably pretty liberated.
Yeah.
I think I would also wonder though, you know, like if I made the right choice or if they're doing okay, because I wouldn't have a source to stay connected with them.
Yeah.
So I think there'd be a little bit of that, but I think overall I would still internally feel good because I wouldn't have, you know, that energy in my life.
Yeah. What are some things that you're grateful for having gone through? What you've gone through?
Bad relationships.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's something I've really come to actually appreciate about breakups, whether I'm the person breaking up with them or them to me. You know, normally it happens and it feels terrible. And it feels like I go back in time almost. You know, you reset your life too.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have the future with them anymore. But I feel like I get a lot out of it still.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of just like learning lessons, I get poems. So like, to me, I'm kind of like, oh, someone screws me over. It sucks, but I'm also like, you're helping my career.
Yeah.
Even if they're being like, you know, negative and that's why we break up is because something went wrong. It's like, I use that sadness for my art. And so like, I would say the breakups, honestly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think there's this girl and she did like poems basically about like girls that she like had some sort of like relationship with, and she's like, you know, like if you see this, let me know so I can read your poem to you and like see how you react to it. And I was like, that's kind of bold, but go ahead.
I actually want to do something like
Really?
that too in the future. It's a very similar concept, but like, I don't know, I have had other toxic exes like know that I've written about them, but they like that because they're bad people. I mean, there's this one guy that we broke up and he broke up with me. And one of the things he said, it was so insulting. He goes, I do wish you the best in life. Can't wait to read about me in the future. And I was like, what the fuck?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I had this one, this one lady on my treatment. She was like, I had this one boyfriend. She would always tell me about her boyfriends. She's like, I had this one boyfriend, and he was like a skater, and like they were in like high school and stuff, like, you know, high school sweethearts and stuff like that. And they were going on like a trip or something, and like it was like a bunch of his like skateboard buddies and stuff. And she was like, oh, like I want to come, and he was like, that'd be like one less seat for like a skateboard buddy and a skateboard, so I don't think so. I was like, oh. He was like, yeah, that's why that one didn't work out. But yeah. So how do you feel now compared to like earlier in the questions?
I feel good. I love conversations like this. Introspectiveness and like figuring out self-development. It's awesome.
Honestly, I haven't had a conversation like this in a while. Like, crazy. I love it. But yeah, that's pretty much all the questions. So, thank you very much. I had a lot of fun. That's so fun.
Back at you.
What did you say?
I said back at you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So, good job.